and welcome back to what I learned this week as a female founder. If you don't know me, my name is Elizabeth. I built my business from my laptop and now I travel the world. This has been a launch week for me, so there's lots of stuff I want to recap you on, lots of stuff I want to talk about. I thought it might be more interesting for me to go through my biggest lessons and my biggest regrets / what I do differently in my next launch. The business I run is an online community for young female founders who travel, who want to build alongside like-minded people, but also want real community as well as the freedom to travel around. So that's why all of our stuff is online. Most of the people that join the club end up finding me on LinkedIn, which is my main social media channel. So that's a little bit of context I feel like that is useful first, because a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about in terms of what I think went well, what I regret, what I'm going to do differently next time, all have to do with those core things. Actually, this week in Jenny Girls Club, me and one of the girls are actually going to demo all of the data stuff that we did behind the scenes. One of the girls is a data specialist, especially for business owners, and she went through all of my data with me, so all of my lead magnets, all of my LinkedIn content, all of just everything, and has consolidated all of that, and we're going to be presenting that inside the club this week. So maybe next week I'll just talk through just all of the data from it, but I'm waiting on her to wrap it all up really nicely in a nice little bow like she did for me. So yeah, I might talk about that next week, but for now I just wanted to talk about more about the mindset and the experience lessons that have come from adding 10 new incredible girls to the club who I'm honestly so pumped about, so proud of, and adding an extra 4 figures to my revenue this month. So yeah, it's just been amazing. But yeah, it's really interesting stuff in here. And then maybe we'll talk about some other stuff as well, but I'm trying to keep this semi-short, so bear with. The first thing that I regret doing during this launch is having part of my launch phase happen during my luteal phase of my menstrual cycle, because essentially I had 1 week of early waitlist applications, and then I had 2 weeks that were open to the public. And while those first 2 weeks felt great and I was getting people through the waitlist, but then also when we went public, we changed the pricing and I got more people that came through that as well. By the second week, things were basically sold out. I had, by the end of week 2, so 3 weeks in total, by the end of week 2, I had 9 people. So I basically spent the entire last week waiting for that one last person. And that last week also happened to be the time where all of my hormones just completely crashed. So I was left in that week with a lot of spiraling, a lot of anxiety, a lot of self-doubt, and just a lot of negative experience and feelings. And I really struggled with that. I really struggled to regulate myself while also feeling I was feeling so good about everything the week before. I was I'm on top of the world, I've got 9 people, everything's great. And then all of my hormones crashed at the same time. And I was just waiting on that one last person. And I think that because obviously of the mindset that you get into and the negativity that you spiral into, I was making that one missing person, that one missing slot mean so much. And I was focusing so much on the lack rather than on the abundance of the other 9 people. And I find that so sad, because the week before I was literally, I was so happy about it. And I was so, this is all I need. I'm so happy. It was basically done and dusted for me at that point. But then leaving that one last week to also be a week where I felt super insecure, I didn't feel good about myself, I didn't feel good about what I was doing, and there was just so many doubts that weren't even my fault. It was just because of the definitely regret not completely syncing that up properly, perfectly. So I think I'll definitely change that next time. And then slightly adjacent to that, one thing that I wish I'd done during this launch phase is have more fun activities and joyful moments planned in that last week, because I think it is so easy, especially when you're getting to the end of a launch cycle, to push yourself to do more and more and focus on the lack or focus on what you could still get out of it. But largely, things by that point are way out of your hands. All of the work that culminated in people applying and me selling out this launch. I never said that, by the way, that I sold out, which is yay. Woohoo! Now I see that now in the data as well, and in the people that applied. All of that work and all of that, serendipity essentially had come from weeks and weeks, months even, maybe even years in some cases, prior. So in that week, we put everything down to that week, but really all of the work has already happened. So I really wish that I'd have just planned more things to distract myself from those last couple of days, because it can be so tempting to just push and push and push. And then if things don't go well, for you to blame yourself and your lack of effort, when actually it's all of the effort that came before that put you in this position in the first place. again, I think during a launch, it is so, so important to talk and think about abundance, right? And I don't mean that in like a woo-woo way. I feel like when we talk about abundance in business, it's always sort of like sprinkled with fairy dust and a little bit woo-woo. But what I'm actually saying is that we just put an arbitrary number on how many people we want to join our programs, how many people we want to buy, how much revenue we want to make, right? Those are just arbitrary numbers where we come up with them. But realistically, any person investing in you, any person buying your product is such a huge win. And I think that it's super important to also frame it that way during a launch phase, because yes, we have goals. Yes, we have things that we'd like to achieve, but everything that is more than zero is worth celebrating. And I think that we rob ourselves, and I definitely did this during my last launch as well, and at times, is we rob ourselves of so much joy just because of the fact that we're not hitting this other arbitrary number that we've decided, when actually anything more than zero is so much better than most people, and also such a big deal. And I think that being able to sit in that a little bit more is also a part of what makes launching feel more doable, what makes it feel more enjoyable. So one little thing that I did during my launch that was a little hack to feel a little bit more of that abundance was I actually wrote like a little love letter to every single one of the girls, especially when I was struggling with that, like, oh, I just want a couple more. Anytime I felt that feeling, I would sit down and I would write a little love letter to every single one of the girls that had applied to join and was going to join. Because when I sat down and really thought about it, like, I had so many amazing, positive, joyful things to say about every single one of the girls that is joining. And if I ever felt worse, I would be able to write those love letters about the girls that are already inside, because I think that also really helped me in this launch, was to remind myself how many wonderful and amazing people I'm already surrounded by, and that those people are enough. Like, those people are enough for me. And every time that I think about that and I sit in that, this is how I feel. Like, I feel like, like, life is so good. Like, the people that are in my circle, the people that are in Journey Girls Club are just genuinely the best girls in the world. And just being able to remember that and sit in that feeling lets me get back into that feeling of anything more than zero is already great, because I already have everything that I need. And yeah, I feel like that really helped me, just writing a little love letter out to every single person that has helped me or that is joining, to make me realize like how lucky I actually am and how much joy is actually already in my life through these people. And yeah, that really, really helped me, I think. The craziest realization, or like the biggest sort of like mind-blowing moment for me this time round, has been the fact that most of the girls that have joined in this round are people that I already know. Like, people that I already know very well. In fact, people that so far have been such good friends to me that I never had an expectation one way or the other that they would ever join. And that's super, super interesting to me, because that they've either been like, they've either already had a lot of contact with me, they know what it's like to speak to me, all of those sorts of things, or they've come through recommendations. And that's also interesting, because it's not necessarily maybe that they've had a lot of contact with me, but somebody else has had a lot of contact with me and then pushed them or put them in contact with me to potentially join. And those are like the two main avenues, I would say, that people have come from, which is so, so fascinating. And that also teaches me a couple of things. The first and smaller one is that I think I need to be clearer all of the time in who exactly this is for, because obviously when I talk about Journey Girls Club, I talk a lot about the feeling, and I try to like write content. Oh, that's a good point, actually. Hang on a second, let me write this down. So like in my content, usually I tend to just write about like the feeling and the experiences and what we've done in the club and that sort of thing. But I'm not necessarily always super clear on the kind of person that we really help. And I think that that's not necessarily like, it's not 100% necessary for the girls that are finding me on LinkedIn. But I think that I need to be a little bit clearer in that, so that people can recommend it more easily. So say, for example, a girl is having problems because she just feels like she doesn't have many friends in business, but she also travels and that sort of thing. If she ever confides in a friend that happens to follow me, I want them to be able to be like, oh, you should follow this person, you should speak to this person. And then basically like make it a little bit more easily shareable, in terms of like, so if you know a girl that has this, then you should put us in touch, sort of thing. I thought that was really interesting. And then the other thing that means for me is that it's been a bit of a reminder for me to have no expectations when it comes to being myself, showing people what I'm doing and what I care about. Because I think that this is the other thing, right? Is like, we feel like sometimes when it comes to our friends, when they're business friends, like, we talk more about maybe the negative things or the things that we're struggling with, or we talk about it more in terms of like the nitty-gritty. But genuinely, when I speak to my friends about the club, I'm talking about the things that light me up, the things that we've done, the things that I'm proud of. And I'm always like gushing about the club just naturally, because that's how proud and how happy I am about it. And I think that also then, you know, that allows people to be a little bit more interested without feeling like I'm just talking about my business for the sake of it, right? Like, my business is such a big part of my life, to the point where I literally can't help but talk about it. And I think that naturally sort of then seeps into potentially people wanting to join. But again, the key point to that is that I don't have any expectations. I just talk about the club whenever, wherever, because I have no expectations about people joining or not. I just love it so much. And I think that energy sort of always comes through. And that's definitely come through also in people joining through meeting me through like, say, like a no obligation connection call. The biggest difference between my most successful and my least successful launches has been my connection with people, specifically in the form of connection calls. No expectations. Like, I'm not talking about like discovery calls or sales calls. I just mean me meeting another human being and genuinely being excited about the thing that I'm working on as a human being, which is Journey Girls Club. And when I speak to people freely, because I'm not trying to sell them, I'm not trying to convert them, I'm just trying to get to know them, because I'm also very naturally inquisitive and curious about whatever business they're building, especially if they're a girly like I am. I just want to know what you're working on. And I'm like, I want to speak to people because of that. But then when people match my vibe and they want to know what I'm working on, I'm able to just naturally gush and talk about what I really care about. I was doing that a lot in the first couple of launches that I had, and I stopped doing it for some of the middle ones. And then this time I've just been a little bit more social, a little bit more like, these are cool people, I'd love to meet some of these people. And some people were like, yeah, I really vibe with this. The way that you speak about it is amazing, I'm going to join. And other people were like, really nice to meet you, see you later. And I'm like, that's perfect. That's totally cool. Because what really works for me is just to be able to meet cool people all the time. And it just so happens that some of them, if we really catch a vibe, also then want to meet some of my friends and be in the club. So, but yeah, massive difference between how many connection calls, just generally, just again, no obligation, no expectation, but just the fact that I'm having them tends to make my launches just a little bit more successful, even if it's just a recommendation as well, which again comes back to the other point. And then again, like the other point that I wanted to make to the fact that I already like knew most of the people, and I definitely like seen their names before. I think there was only 2 people whose name I had never seen before the week of the launch. And other than that, I'd basically seen or met every single person. And those 2 people came by a recommendation from somebody else, right? So that's the other thing, is like, the biggest reminder that I needed in this launch phase was that the people that are most likely to buy from you, the people that are your warmest leads, are already in your periphery. They're already in your DMs, they're already in your comments, they're already in like your newsletter, they're already reading it. That's not always been true for me when it comes to LinkedIn content. Like before the last couple of LinkedIn algorithm changes, I definitely had people that I'd never seen before that would just like find a post and apply. But that has definitely not happened this time, especially with, like I say, the changes to the LinkedIn algorithm that are making things a little bit more specific to people. Those people you already know, you've already seen their names, they've already been watching. And that is a really good reminder now for this next launch, for the next one that I do in like November, December time, is that the people that are likely, I can probably predict the people that will be in that one based on who I'm already speaking to. And that comes back to the big reminder that I want to give you if you're currently leading up to a launch, or if you're about to launch something new, or if you're currently in one, is that even if the people that don't like convert this time, some of them might be part of your next launch, which is also fine. They're part of next intakes numbers. They're part of next launch numbers. For me personally, and I know that this probably applies to most coaches, any group programs, any communities, anything like that, is that my best strategy is connection. Obviously, that's my entire business model, which is kind of why it's kind of funny, but like the strategy for me is to deepen the relationships that I already have. And again, not through pitching or having any expectation, but specifically through building and deepening the relationships. And there's a couple of ways that I want to do that next time. So like I say, email was definitely, I would say, my biggest driver. So email played the biggest role for me, especially. My literal worst nightmare happened on the day of my launch. I have almost 60,000 LinkedIn followers. And on the day that I posted my launch, I got 5 impressions on that post. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the image. I don't know if it was just a shit story, or if people just were genuinely not interested posted. I don't know whether my hook was maybe a little bit too clickbaity because I was talking about money. Again, through a completely innocent lens. But seeing that number, that 5 impressions, usually I get like, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 impressions, and a certain amount of likes, but it'd been like an hour and 5 people had seen that post, and I just thought, oh my God, this is like my biggest nightmare. God, I had email, like I was just able to send another email that day to be like, oh, by the way, it's officially open to the public, like, we've changed our pricing, like make sure you get in now. So over half of the people that joined my last launch came from email, like had already been on the email list, had already taken part in something, had already been reading the emails to run up with, and also joined in the early waitlist period as well. So crazy. And I'm really, really glad that I had email in that moment. And it's just another big reminder that like every single thing that I'm doing is a touch point and not the be all and end all. Like I say, some of the tips and some of the like really cool stuff that I did during this launch, I will talk about in the next week when I talk about all of the data. Like I will literally just show you all of the graphs from my last launch, hopefully, maybe. This is, I think, a really important reminder for anyone that's launching something is that like, one, all of the effort that you put in these 2 weeks is not going to mean much if you haven't been putting the effort in the previous 3 months, right? So if you're planning on launching in 3 months, like start now, start seeing this as your launch period. And I think that that's also kind of freeing because you get to just do your best each week. And then by the time you get to the launch period, like, that you're essentially like, you've done the best that you can. And this is just about like animating people, just giving people that last little push to take action. But again, I think it's important that people really need to feel confident and feel like they know you when it comes to launches, right? So I think for me, the biggest other takeaway from this is that no singular asset, no singular thing that I do is actually more impactful than the sum of its parts, than the ecosystem that I'm building. So when that comes to like how I'm building the ecosystem, that's LinkedIn posts that drive to my website, that's YouTube videos that drive to my website, link down below, obviously. Instagram, that lets people see a little bit more behind the scenes of my life and about what I'm doing. My YouTube, obviously, about like I say thought leadership, what I'm really saying is like also lessons that I'm learning, and the lessons that I think it's important to say, like, are the lessons that I pass on to the girls. Like, they learn these things first. We discuss these things first and in more detail. And obviously the girls then also get to ask me and each other questions, which I think is super important. But yeah, LinkedIn posts, Instagram, YouTube, but also obviously my newsletter. I've been playing with the idea of Substack just because right now with Kit, I'm only funneling my warm leads into the waitlist, but I don't, as it is, have like a specific newsletter. I don't know if I really want to do a newsletter per se, but I know that on Substack you can be discovered a lot more easily in terms of like you can build a little bit more of a community on there. So I wonder whether there's a little bit of an angle somewhere that I could be infiltrating or looking at for Substack. But in general, any form of email and blog sort of like section. And then DMs and calls, right? Like if I really vibe with someone, to just meet them in person, just for the vibes, like that all feeds into the ecosystem of people, maybe not even joining, but recommending, right? And either way, I have no expectation, but I don't have expectations when I post LinkedIn posts or send DMs. Like, you can't force people to buy, you can just be your best self. And I think that that's the other thing that I'm definitely thinking about more and more. How myself I am directly results in how successful my business is. And the next 3 months for me and the next 3 months for you, if you want to launch something really successful in the next 3 months, is to just become more yourself online. Like, really hone in on the things that are truly you, really hone in on the things that make you feel good. Someone said to me the other day, like, you make everything about female friendships in business. And that makes your content really strong, right? And I think that that's true on LinkedIn, but actually it's not so much that I try and make everything, it's like very, like LinkedIn call, like, oh, what this taught me about B2B sales. And I think that that's like, that is what I do. It's not so much that I'm always talking about, entrepreneurship and female friendship and blah, blah, blah. Not out of any other strategy than just, it's one of the most important parts of who I am. And it's one of my biggest passions and missions in life. And I essentially see everything in life through that prism. And I think that that allows me to really easily write content about it because I'm seeing everything through that lens. Being a digital nomad, having female friendships, building businesses online, like everything has to do with that because that's how I see the world. That's the literal tinted glasses that I see the world through. So of course everything I write is about that. Anyway, that's basically like what I've learned. That's the behind the scenes of my launch this week. It's been so successful. I'm genuinely like, this is like the first time that it's like officially fully sold out, incredible people. Also with the price going up and with everything, like just the reactions and the reception has been so amazing. So I'm really, really grateful, but I also hope that you've learned something and that hopefully you'll be able to learn a little bit more next week when I go through all of the data and show you a little bit of the behind the scenes. If there's anything that you want to know specifically about my launch, then I will answer it in next week's video. But yeah, if you're currently launching something, then I wish you the best of luck. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful week and a very productive week ahead, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.